People often get fascinated by technology, especially when it comes to the new generation. But for me, people like me who have got a little bit of gray hair on their head, we like the older stuff. I like revisiting time. I like the things from the yesteryears, the evolution, the beauty, the preservation, the restoration. That is precisely the reason I'm here today at the Heritage Transport Museum in Gurugram, hosted by Tarun Thakral, not in his office, not in a conference room, but he's waiting for me at a railway station. At a railway station in a train bogie from the 1930s named Jodhpur Saloon. It has beautiful stuff inside, which I'm going to show you. Interior that we need to talk about, but besides that, the whole place is such a giant piece of beauty personified, is something that we are going to talk about today. Everything from the yesteryears combinedly put together at one single junction. Let's not waste much of our time. Let's go to Tarun at the railway station and figure out what this museum is all about. Where you find me sitting right now is this beautiful coach of Jodhpur Salon from 1930s. With me, I have Mr. Tarun Thakral, the founder and the managing trustee of this beautiful place, about which we are going to talk a lot more. But first of all, since you have been waiting for us at this beautiful railway station and the coach from the 1930s, I want to start off, Tarun, first of all, by saying thank you so much for inviting us here.
My pleasure.
And before I go into the concept, the business side of the place that we are sitting in right now, tell us about this beautiful place, the beautiful coach, which has a chessboard, it has a gramophone, it has a bedroom, it has a kitchen.
What's the story? Two bedrooms.
Two bedrooms.
Yeah.
So it's a 2 BHK basically,
Yeah.
a luxury
Yes,
BHK.
yeah.
So what's the story behind this particular coach?
Right. In 2004, I had read in a magazine that in the West, people buy old coaches and convert them into their private residences.
Okay.
So with that in mind, I had approached the Ministry of Railways that I would like to purchase one. They said we don't sell it to individuals. So I said, it's not you're selling it to an individual, you're in the process of scrapping these coaches. In fact, more than 25 of them were scrapped.
Okay.
This was the only one which was left. So I actually had to put my foot down and say that you're scrapping it. Tomorrow, if we want to use this for the next generations, how would you wouldn't have coaches? So then they thought about it. I struggled with the Ministry of Railways and the Railway Board for almost a year.
Okay.
Finally, they decided that, okay, we will not auction this for scrap, but you will have to pay 20% more than the last auction price. So I said, fine, I will pay you that money. So for a princely sum of 5,25,000 rupees in 1995, they finally approved it, and I was able to move this to the farm that I had in Gurugram at that time. And when we got the coach, it needed repairs. So my friend, who was the Princess of Bikaner, who is rather the Princess of Bikaner, she helped me send artisans from there, and this was restored to its original glory. This was built in 1930 by a company called Sheffield and Company. This entire body of this coach is made of Verma teak.
Okay.
And when we had restored it, we had taken out the iron sheets that are there to prevent it from the wood getting spoiled. So those were all, that's all intact from inside.
Tarun, I see a lot of variation here. I see yesteryear's glory basically, the beauty that has been preserved by you and your team. Let's go back to the starting point of the journey. When you thought that, okay, I have these things with me, but there needs to be a specific place to keep all these things,
Right.
make it available for the people. How did the idea come into your mind, and how did the concept eventually got executed?
You know, since 1994, I was out of the country prior to 1994 for a couple of years, doing my MBA in hospitality industry. So when I came back, I started appreciating old Indian things. So that was, I think the influence was me staying out of the country and coming and respecting old antique things of whatever's there in the country. So on one of my trips to Rajasthan in 1994, I actually purchased an old dilapidated car, a 1932 Chevrolet,
Okay.
and it was all rust. because of the heat, the tires were burnt out and all that. I got it for 5,000 rupees. I brought it back to Delhi. Spent almost a year and a half restoring it. And finally, in late 95, it was restored and I was able to drive that vehicle.
Wow.
It felt that I had given birth or I had brought something back to life, which was long gone. So that triggered the passion of collecting vintage and classic cars. And
Right.
Actually, then suddenly I started going to various towns, smaller towns, and picking up old vehicles. So once I had a collection of about 50, 60 vehicles, and they were in various stages of restoration, I realized that India does not have a transport museum. And they do have vehicle museums, car museums. There was one in Ahmedabad at that time. There was in Mysore, a smaller one. So then I started collecting all non-motorized modes of transport,
Right.
which included bullock carts, horse carriages, camel carts, vintage buses. And then finally in 2004, I got an opportunity to acquire this coach.
Okay.
So like that, the collection grew. And then in 2009, I approached the government of India that I have this land here near Manesar. I have this huge collection that I've built over the years, and I was finding it difficult to maintain it because these are not small objects, these are large objects. How do you maintain them? And that's the time the government had a scheme that if you want to set up a museum, you need to have your own land, you need to have a collection and all that. And finally, I got a grant in 2001. Sorry, 1999, 2000 I got the grant, and in 2013 we were able to open India's first comprehensive transport museum, the Heritage Transport Museum.
And the story continues.
And it continues. We're almost 10.5 years old.
10.5 years old, but if you think that this is what we are here to do, sit and talk, that is not the idea. The idea is to roam around. The idea is to talk about the products, the installations that you are going to see now. So let's do one thing. Let's walk.
Yeah, let's do
get
that.
out of
Yeah.
the railway station.
Yeah.
Let's go to the city of the transportation
Right.
and see what it has to offer.
Let's do that. Yes.
With Tarun, we are in the pre-mechanized area right now.
Yeah.
Before technology came,
That's
before
true.
it disrupted the whole human race.
Yeah.
Tell us a little more about these carts that we have, the
Yeah.
buggies that we have. Tell us a little more about the story. Tell us a little more about how the resourcing happened and how did you find all these beautiful pieces?
Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, they still had, when I started collecting, old bullock carts, old horse carriages, old camel carts, old palanquins.
Right.
So I tried to broaden the museum's outlook in terms of what used to happen in the pre-mechanized area. So if you see here, you have this is from Calcutta actually.
Okay.
This used to be a closed-bodied horse carriage where the ladies used to travel. And that's a typical English carriage when the English were here in India.
All the princes and the
Yeah,
princesses.
princesses. They used to travel in these. So what we've tried to do is at the background, we have a railway station. And
Where
we
you
have
met
these,
us.
and where we have carriages, which used to be earlier, once you used to land up, at any railway platform, all you had was bullock carts and horse carriages.
Correct.
You remember the movie Sholay?
Yes.
Dhanno? And
Dhanno.
you remember the carriage? That's the last of the carriages, which is something
So
similar.
basically, Jay and Viru come out.
Haan.
They find Dhanno over
Yeah.
here. They sit and they say, take me to
Chaliye.
the Thakur's place.
Yeah.
People say, no, we don't want to go, but still we are here. And the restoration, does it cost a lot of
Yeah,
money?
it does cost a lot of money. So we had to hire conservators from India who knew about the stuff. Wood requires a different set of conservation. Metal requires a different set of conservation. Cloth requires a different conservation technique. Paper and prints require different. So as you go around the museum, you'll see that most of the things are restored. We've not tried to garishly do it,
Okay.
but we've tried to keep and respect the original
The
metal,
originality of
the
the
originality of what it is. I must tell you a very interesting story of this because I'm sure your viewers would be interested. These are finials which go on the ends of the poles of a palanquin.
Okay.
Now, depending on the status of that individual, these were designed.
Okay.
So they're like semi-gods and semi-devils.
Okay.
Because palanquins used to travel all across, the countryside and at those times. So this used to instill fear, and they used to say that instill fear and all the demons and everybody would be out of
So
the
a
way.
lot of cultural identity
Yeah.
attached to it.
Yeah.
While we are talking about culture, let me also tell you the buggies that you see here from Rajasthan. I am from Rajasthan.
Hmm.
The only thing I feel right now doing is get a camel,
Strap it.
maybe, strap it in, sit, and just take one of these away. But I cannot really do that. What I can do though is bring a little joy to your life,
Hmm.
bring a little more color. So
Hmm.
let's do something. Let's go to a place which is colorful. Let's go to a place which will tell you about history from the pre-mechanized era to the mechanized era. Let's take a walk. Let me also tell you, Tarun,
Yeah.
I left that place very grudgingly because my ancestral stuff is
I
kept
know,
over
I
there.
can imagine.
But
yeah.
we are here in this beautiful portion of the museum now, wherein you see a lot of color, you see a lot of technology now. But I want to talk about the business model of how you do things.
Mm.
The government helped you, yes. They have certain criteria in terms of how a museum can be started, should be executed. How do you make money?
No, so you see, when we were working on this model, I did visit a lot of museums in the West. The London Transport Museum, the Smithsonian, the San Diego Museum, Peterson Museum. There, what I saw was that every museum has to be a self-contained business unit.
Right.
So you need to figure out how you're going to earn revenues. So here in our museum, ticketing is a source of revenue.
Right.
We have conference facilities, that is a source of revenue. We have lawns, which is a big source of revenue for major events, 1,000 people plus. We offer the museum to film shoots and video shoots on the day the museum is shut, which is every Monday. So they come and do, and that's a big rental for us, revenue. Of course, we have the cafe, we have the souvenir shop. So all in all, we're pretty proud that despite being out of the city, we've actually, made sure that the museum is sustainable.
So, is there any interesting story in terms of the things that we see here right now? Any product that is specifically close to your heart? Maybe there is an
These are
interesting
all
story.
old buses, basically. This one is particularly of interest and which your viewers also will like. This is actually a moving cinema hall.
Okay.
So the projector and all used to be inside.
Let's take a closer look.
Yeah.
Let's take a closer look. So
this is an old
an old cinema hall.
Yeah. So this used to travel from village to village,
Okay.
and they used to have a projector inside. They used to put a screen in front at the back side and run a movie. So the entire people used to come sit on the floor and
Just
watch
like
the-
shown in the movies yesteryears. As I told you earlier, we're not going to get stuck on one particular side of the museum. Let's go somewhere else and show you something very modern, vintage, and expensive. If ever there was a subtle way of making someone feel old, although I do look old, but then again, this car, the red beauty that you see, this was used in a movie in 1997, the original product standing beside us. The movie's name, Dil To Pagal Hai. On the other side of the way, you see these different cars with different workshops. There are repair shops, there are puncture shops, and there are spare parts and all those things. But that is not what we are here to talk about. We are here to talk about something else, one specific product that we are going to show you. But before that, Tarun, I want to ask you a question. A question that is very intriguing to me. Technology has not changed much in terms of making other older technologies obsolete in the last 10, 15 years. How do you evolve the museum then?
Technology is one part. The other part is the memories associated with these vehicles.
Correct.
There is a certain generation which immediately falls in love. My first Ambassador, I have not seen it for years. It's
Yes.
right here. Okay, my first Fiat. because Indians, we had very limited choices.
Hmm.
There were very few cars which were imported in the 40s, 50s, 30s. And once Hindustan Motors and Premier Automobiles came into being, we had two models, I think, for a couple of decades.
Right.
We didn't have, till Maruti came in, we had
Right.
no other car available. So from their point of view, this is nostalgia. And the museum, any museum which touches your heart, somewhere that museum is going to be a success because you take back much more memories. Your own memories come alive. Okay. From a technology point of view, these were all petrol engines at that time, gas guzzlers, as we call them today. But technology has changed. They've refined the technology. The rides are much smoother. Everything is there. Plus, with the new government regulation that cars over 15 years, petrol cars and 10-year diesel cars cannot be run on the roads anymore. So people are now wanting to say, what happens to my old Honda City? What happens to my Ford Icon? Or what happens, these are the cars which were there in the last few years. So what's going to happen beyond when EV takes over, or when, maybe we have hydrogen cars? We don't know. Maybe there's studies going on. These cars will still retain their value as what started the mobility for people.
And this could be the shelter that they need.
Yeah.
Tell us about this, because I see Rolls-Royce 1934.
Yeah.
Tell us the story behind it. Or
Okay,
what is it doing in your house right now?
Okay, this belongs to Deepak and Gary Sandhu
Okay.
from Punjab, and they've owned this. This has been their family car.
Okay.
So they came and they were very impressed with the museum. So they said, we will loan our car to the museum so that more and more visitors can come and have a look at it for 2 years. So it's been almost 1.5 years, and we still have about 6 months to go.
Okay.
Now, Rolls-Royces, as you are aware, most of the princely families of India had it. They command very high values today, both domestically as well as in the international market. But our role as museum is not to define a price of what a vehicle would be today. It is to show how cars, from the most luxurious cars to the most ordinary cars, survive together.
But there is something that I recall, Tarun. My yesteryear memories. There was this beautiful ad with a Bollywood actor named Dharmendra. Shandar Savari, Ek Jandar Savari. For those who do not know, from the 1980s or 1980s perhaps, this ad that came out and caught the attention of people like us in the next generation. Let's take a walk and go to something that fascinates people in terms of technology and presentation. If you don't see me on this channel anymore after this particular video, there is a reason behind it. Probably, I've taken away one of these bikes. I've stolen one of these basically, and I've run off and the cops are looking for me. Tell me the story behind all these bikes that you have. Is there a particular bike which you fancy to steal, although they all belong to you? But still, what was the idea of going about this particular brand?
Rajdoot motorcycle, 175 as they used to call it. It was a very popular bike, not only in the cities, but also in the rural areas, because it was considered by escorts a very rugged bike, which could go on all kinds of terrains. So it's again that nostalgia that I was talking about. Anybody who has driven this bike at some point in time comes back and, his memories start coming back. So whether it's the Rajdoot, the Royal Enfield, the Yezdis, or the Vespas, or the Lambrettas. Incidentally, Lambretta used to be called a family car. The Lambretta scooter. Because you remember those pictures from olden days. One child in front, one in the middle.
I was about to say
Yeah,
that.
so, and it happened in these motorcycles also.
Yeah. I've taken you near a bus. I've taken you near a Rolls-Royce. I've taken you near the bikes. I've taken you near the sidecars with a scooter. How about we fly now?
Yeah,
How about we go near a plane, a trainer plane basically, beautiful to look at, vibrant color, and something that I would want to talk or know more about. There's an energy drink that claims to give you wings. Now, I probably cannot give you wings. What I can do though is show you some beautiful wings. The Piper G3C.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about this particular thing, because as
Yeah.
I said, we want to fly now.
So there was an advertisement in the newspaper that UP Civil Aviation Department are auctioning 3 Piper J3C aircrafts and 1 more aircraft. So I got intrigued with that advertisement and I flew to Lucknow just to check what is on the cards. And there were 3 of them. This was in the best condition. So I put in my bids for that. I went and sat with all kinds of scrap dealers who were wanting to buy it as scrap. And we finally won the bid for 2,85,000 rupees.
Wow.
And this aircraft was ours. And we actually fired the engine. And it is a fully functional
It works.
aircraft. Yeah. The only thing is its license has expired to fly.
Okay.
So we are unable to fly it. And so that's why it's a part of the museum now. This is actually a trainer aircraft. So there are 2 people who can sit in this aircraft. The trainer, the senior person who trains the junior pilot sits at the rear, and the learner pilot sits in the front. And both of them have controls, but the master controls are still with the guy who's training him. We, in fact, have all the logbooks of all the pilots
Who have trained in.
who've trained in this aircraft, and that forms a part of our collection.
What else is there to be shared? What else is there to say about this beautiful place? There is a lot of money involved. There's a lot of hard work involved. There's a lot of, as they say, blood, passion, and sweat. Everything that you can think of as a human is involved. And I said, just like I said a couple of minutes back, there is a lot of over here. So with that lot of information, I want to sign off this particular interview with a hope that you like this video, with a hope that you're going to visit this particular museum, if at all you have not till now, and with a hope that if you see me on a stolen Rajdoot from this particular place, you will not be the person to call the cops and let me fly away, not in the wings, but at least on the bike. But Tarun sir, thank you so much
Thank
for giving us the time today.
Thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Thanks for
Beautiful
coming
place
over.
you have.
Thanks.
And we hope that there is never a day wherein it's this quiet as it is right now. But
That's
thank you so
fine.
much for giving
Thank
us the
you.
time.
Thank you so much.